It is the Flow Friday Night Sports Show. Hume Netball, some very interesting matches played last weekend. And joining me on the line, Carla Fletcher is back to go through the results and what's to come. How are you, Carla?
Good, thanks, Jason. How are you?
Going well, thanks. And tell you what, there were some big matches played last weekend. Interestingly enough, the closest match of the round was between Gindera and the Murray Magpies, and the Magpies almost got there against the more fancy Gindera.
Yeah, Magpies knew they were going to be in for a really tough game against the full-strength Gindera, especially they were down one of their shooters due to the lockdown. Gindera had a really strong first half, but credit to the Magpies. They fought really hard in the second half, putting some great defensive pressure on Gindera. And in the end, they only went down by 5 goals. So a great game from the Magpies girls. And their best players were Molly Deborahs in goal shooter and Laura Kieran in goalkeeper. And Shara Sutcliffe and Chelsea Burns took home the awards for Gindera.
As disappointing as that would have been for the Magpies, I guess the Billabong Crows have kept their faint, slim finals hopes alive by having a win over the Randall-Bundry Waller Giants in another tight one, and only 9 goals in this. The Crows are 58, the Giants 49.
Yeah, so both teams were missing key players due to the lockdown as well, but it was a pretty evenly contested match for the entire game. Both sides started well, seeing it even at the first quarter break, and there were only 4 goals in at the half-time in favour of the Crows, and they managed to keep a 3-goal lead at three-quarter time against a really determined Randall-Bundry Waller team. And unfortunately for Randall-Bundry, the Crows just fought strongly in the last quarter and were able to capitalise on a few crucial turnovers and some great shooting by both Ricky Robb and Bethany Maloney. Brianna Higgins for Randall-Bundry played a really strong game in goalkeeper, winning the mug with a number of turnovers and intercepts and rebounds, and Mel McClellan took home the voucher with her best shooting percentage for the season. She only missed 3 goals for the game, so it would have been a fantastic game to watch.
They were the 2 closest fixtures of the weekend. The 2 big blowouts in the end. One of them was between the top side, Osborne and Holbrook. You would have expected this result. It was Osborne far too good. They more than doubled their opposition's score, 62-30.
Yeah, it was a pretty tough day out there for Holbrook up against ladder leaders in Osborne. Although they were pretty pleased with their start, they just couldn't stop Osborne's mid-court players who moved the ball way too quick and fast down the court. Holbrook's defence worked really hard with Jodie Ross and Sophie Parker having great games, and Jess Patton in centre and wing attack had her best game for the season. And the Osborne's Coaches Award went to Rachel Galvin, who against a really tough opponent positioned herself beautifully. She read the play well and picked up a number of tips and intercepts. And Coach Sally Hunter, normally playing in the defensive end, she ventured down into the shooting end, and she was voted player's player. So well done, Sally.
Good work. The other big blowout of the weekend was, of course, the match between your Lockhart crew and Henty. And tell you what, this puts you within striking distance of that's a coveted second spot on the ladder now. 73-32. Too good for Henty.
Yeah, no, Henty had a lot of players double up on the weekend due to some injuries and, of course, the lockdown. You know, they had some pretty sore bodies on Sunday, but even though they went down, they did make it a bit challenging for Lockhart, and Lockhart had to really work hard for the entire game. Beck Matthews had a great game after a few weeks off, with Holly Murphy playing a solid game in defence. And the awards for Lockhart went to Olivia Lang in goal shooter, and also ventured out into goal attack for a best on-court performance, and Isabel Hogg in the centre also had a lovely game. And Henty's most valuable player went to Brandy Muller, who had a brilliant game in goal defence with a heap of intercepts. And the Coaches Award went to their goalkeeper, Jodie Spencer.
And the other 2 games were pretty much as expected. So How Long had a comfortable 13-goal win over Brock Burham. Not a huge amount in it between these 2 sides, but How Long did what they needed to do.
Yeah, they did, but both teams had to shuffle players around and double up due to the border restrictions. But How Long were pretty pleased with their game against the Saints, and their best players were Brooke Cannon in the centre and April Lamping in wing attack.
We move to the final match of the round, which saw another relatively comfortable win in the end for CDHBU. They had a 14-goal win over Colcan, 41-27 in a game which really didn't mean too much in terms of ladder positions, but good hit out for both sides.
Yeah, it was, and I think Colcan were hoping to back up their win from the previous weekend, but unfortunately they came up against a pretty determined CDHBU team. It was a fairly competitive game, but CDHBU just applied a little bit more pressure in the last quarter to come away with that 14-goal win. But a huge improvement for Colcan, who last time they lost by over 20 goals in their first encounter.
Yeah.
And their best players, were Sarah Smith, Montana Moore and Shannon Seaman.
And that leads us into what is now round 17 of matches. Let's have a look at them, shall we?
Yep, there's only 2 rounds to go. There's going to be some exciting and key matches over the next few weekends. So, it'll be very interesting.
Doesn't get any bigger than this, the top of the table clash. And Osborne obviously will go in as favourites. It is at Gindera, though, and they were off the bit a little bit last week against the Murray Magpies, so they'll have to improve on that performance to beat Osborne.
Yes, this is going to be a huge game this weekend, and Gindera will be wanting the win to keep that second spot, but they will have to be at their absolute best against an informed Osborne. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people waiting on the outcome of this game.
No doubt about that. People will be looking closely at that one. Some other pretty important games in terms of ladder positions. Now, it's the last chance here for the Murray Magpies. It's must-win stuff against Holbrook. Lose this, their season's over. Win this, and there's still a silly chance to play finals. A lot will have to go their way. But in the form they're in, they probably should win this.
I think they'll continue on their winning run, and they will, they'll account for Holbrook quite easily.
And they'll be barracking for CDHBU against Randwill Bundry Waller. This is at Careen, and CDHBU, pretty good performance last week, but the Giants are a different kettle of fish. So they'll start favourites here. Yeah,
I think so, and they'll be looking to keep that 6th spot on the ladder, and they're playing some really pressure netball leading up into the finals, and I think they'll keep doing that.
Another important game, whilst it might not look so on paper, is the Billabong Crows and Henty. Now, the Crows are still hoping, I guess, trying to get into that top 2 spot. They need a big win over Henty. I don't think there'll be any mercy shown here for the Henty crew.
No, and Henty will still be possibly down a few players this week, and they're going to be tackling an informed Crows team who are also hopefully have their coach Millie Ferguson back leading them from the front. I think they'll have a good win.
Now we finish with 2 games that really won't have too much of an effect on the ladder. First of all, Colcan and Brockburrow. Now, neither of these 2 sides will play finals, as we know, but the battle for pride continues here, and Colcan will want to keep their good form going.
They will, but I think the Saints, they'll be looking to return to the winning list this weekend, and they should be at full strength this weekend, and they should take home the full points against Colcan.
And then we get to the game which, it's an important game for Lockhart. They've got to keep winning, but for how long, really, a win or a loss at this point in time doesn't make any difference. They're landlocked into 5th spot ahead of the finals with 2 games to go. Be interested to see how they go. They could be facing each other in the finals at some point, depending on how things go.
Yeah, they could be, and they're both looking forward to the next 2 weeks in the home run to the finals. I think Lockhart might do Howlong, but I think Howlong are going to give them a really good game. Fingers
crossed. All right, we'll leave it there and look forward to catching up with you next week. Good luck to everyone in Hume Netball.
Thanks, Jason. Have a great weekend.